and Corey in a hot office. It is way too hot out for May, unusual for sure, and this office was not meant for the warm times. All around me, I'm surrounded by rooftop, and that just soaks up that sun and radiates it in here. I've got a couple windows open and a fan turned to max, and it's still like 95. So if I get redder and redder, either I'm ranting or it's way too hot. The good news is this Saturday we're supposed to get a vent up here, and hopefully it's kind of got to take a wonky path to get here. So hopefully it'll still provide some AC and some heating in the winter instead of hopefully having to run this portable unit again that sounds kind of like a train coming down the tracks. So, all right. What are we going to talk about? Anyone got any questions? I will say, if you haven't become a member, you could. And today I put something into motion, the new coin. We're going to start working on a new coin for a 5-year membership because that's some people are getting close. And a special gift. This gift, if it pans out, retails normally in stores and stuff like that, which this isn't something we do. It's a different thing. Normally retails for like $80. So I kind of want to give that big thank you for the people that have stuck around during membership for 5 years. There's plenty of people that have been around longer, and but this is just an easy way we can automate and kind of say thanks. So, all right, here we go. We need some advice. I added a scoop of the spoon of baby brine shrimp eggs to the hatchery, and after 24 hours, still not getting a big hatch. What do? So, first, read the directions on our website. There's extra tips in there. We've done some videos or some blog articles as well. Usually what happens is it's a water environment problem. So that means either you don't have the right water structure or you don't have the right temperature. Those are the two things that really affect what brine shrimp are doing. So first, my recommendation we use our easy brine shrimp salt if you're not, or some other marine salt. Second, double check your temperatures. So often I watch people, they might measure the water going in, they might measure it 10 minutes later, but they're not measuring it at 3 o'clock in the morning when the temperature maybe is dipped down, right? So you want an even hatch process. And then also, sometimes your water structure and the way you're hatching, you might get a much better hatch at 36 hours. So just know that. There's someone weed eating right now and I can hear it. Hopefully you guys don't get too much of that. There's always something going on around here. But I would look at the environment you have in, and that's basically temperature and water structure. You get those two right, and they'll do you right. Okie dokie. Let's see. Gorelord13 says, I have 5 air pumps in a drawer for a few months. All are dead and won't charge. The USB pumps, not the nano. I would say contact our customer service and we'll start troubleshooting with you. You would be the first person we've ever had, well, to my knowledge, first person we've ever had that have had a problem like that. I can understand if you're like, I own 5 and 1 might be having a problem. But to have 5 be defective, like our defect rate on our rechargeable battery air pump is so low that you would own like 80% of all the defects, which the odds of that is like you would get struck by lightning while winning the lotto 6 times. So usually what we find when customer service goes back and forth over the course of a few days that, oh, it's the type of charger or the cord or the outlet or something, when there's that many. Because that's, I'm not saying it's impossible because we're a company that makes stuff, and by all means, you could have those odds and like, wow, that is crazy, and we will just take care of you. But more likely, being that we do this with the customer service department day in, day out, every day, and we answer hundreds of tickets and people, likely there's a common thing of like, oh, you were doing this. That's why it's not charging for you. We'd want to test things like, does it work when it's plugged in? So battery or not, like it should still work, right? Because even if the battery goes bad, and let's say the battery's completely bad, you should be able to plug it in normally and it would work like a normal air pump. That'd be the first test. Then we could isolate it to like, okay, it's a charging thing going on here. Also, we've had people, maybe you don't know how to turn it on. I'm not saying you don't, but we in customer service, we've had people put air pumps inside of their aquarium and then go, hey, they're not making air, not knowing that they don't go inside the aquarium. We've had people put air stones in aquariums and not hook up anything and go, hey, they're not making air. So we like to start from the basics and we'll keep working progressively. And usually we do find an answer and a culprit. So that's the good news is if you go through it, worst case scenario, you get brand new pumps. Best case scenario, we fix it for you. All right. What was in the drawer with them? Maybe, yeah. Maybe you could have maybe there's some crazy magnets or something. There's a million what ifs. What if I left them in the back of my car and it was 7,000 degrees? Could be. I can't keep Java Fern alive. I dose ferts regularly. My water is on the hard side. Could that have something to do with it? Maybe. I think it's the way you're planting, and you want to make sure the rhizome. Okay, I gotta close the window. It's driving me nuts. I can't deal with it. More manageable now. Ugh. It's hard to keep your train of thought while wondering if it's too loud and what's going on. So, let me back it up. Java Fern, dosing fertilizers. Some things to know is that the fertilizer could also be getting used up by stem plants. I watch that happen a lot, where someone will plant their whole tank and they'll have all these fast-growing stem plants, and they'll dose like once a week with Easy Green. And then the Java Ferns are sitting there starving because they can't grow as fast, they don't consume as fast. The other thing I would check is just overall, do you have enough fertilizer? Sometimes people read the Easy Green and like, oh yeah, it says here once a week, and they just stop reading, not knowing that, well, you need to check how many nitrates you have, and is it a highlight tank? And so there's some things there, but I don't think it's hard water. Usually African cichlid tanks and stuff can grow Java Fern, and they usually have hard water. I've got hard water. I can do it okay. So I would focus on, if we go back, my wife's been saying, some people have been loving the baking analogies. If you always make horrible cookies, right? Don't assume it's your oven. If you're making cakes and all this other stuff and they turn out fine, kind of assume that you've got the recipe wrong. And that's what the fertilizer and planting is. It's the recipe of like, well, there's probably something to tweak in there and get better results. I can feel the temperature like rising in here right now. Why would you use marine salt versus aquarium salt with baby brine shrimp? Because marine salt has trace elements. It has pH buffer, has KH buffer. And basically all those things combined make you have perfect water. Let me back up a step. Where brine shrimp eggs come from, they come from brackish water. So that's half salt, half fresh. Well, not half in always, but it's a mix between freshwater and saltwater. By using the appropriate amount of marine salt mix, you replicate the environment they came from. Now, you can add salt, just salt, to the water by using aquarium salt, and that can hatch them. But I find I get more consistent results more often by buffering the water with all the other things as well. Plus, I like adding those minerals to my tanks as I feed. So it's a twofer for me. I feel like, is this Ghost of ROK the guy that asked me last week when we're going to talk about fish? Is this just like a long con that I'm missing out on? Could be. What are the tips and tricks for growing Crinum calamastratum? mostly set it and forget it. So what I do is I plant it. It's a tuber, so it's this big bulb looking thing. I plant the roots down in the substrate, only like maybe an inch, even though it might be a 5-inch tuber or something, only about an inch. And then I put something around it to make sure it doesn't get disturbed. That could be rocks. That could be one of our easy planters. Mostly those two, rocks or that. And then just forget about it for like a year. And if you have really poopy gravel, it'll grow really well. Or you got to put some root tabs under it. And then over a long period of time, it'll get huge. And then it'll make babies on the tuber that you could break off and plant new ones. So, yeah. Java Fern's also a heavy potassium user. Yes, that's why we, in the lifespan of Easy Green, at one point we doubled the amount of potassium for Java Ferns and Anubias, because we were finding people that would run into those deficiencies if they're running a crazy amount of Anubias and Java Ferns. So we doubled it, and should not really be as much of a problem for people. So, especially the people that are like struggling to grow plants and getting new into it, you can definitely get deficiencies going when you're, super high end. I'm running 10 lights and CO2 where it's like a volcano in there, and my plants grow, 1.5 meters a day. Sure, you can run it there. But normal people aquariums where, you go to work, you come home, you appreciate it, you play with it a little bit, for the most part, will do you well. My bed has got a case of fin rot. I'm on the last day of treating with Maricin 2. That's your first mistake, Maricin 2. But I see a couple of small white fluffs on the fin edges. Should I quarantine and treat with salt immediately? Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably use salt. Yep. Maricin 2, in my experience, just doesn't work nearly as well as ICX and Maricin. I'm not going to say 1 because 1 doesn't exist, but just Maricin or salt. So that's why we don't sell/recommend Maricin 2. It's not that it never works. It's that when I recommend stuff, I want really repeatable results for wide groups of people, and not, corner case, like, oh, one time it worked. So, is this sign crooked or is it an optical illusion? I'm not going to say I didn't put it up there with a level, but it's pretty darn level. I would say mostly optical illusion. If anything, it's the camera that would be slightly off, because I can turn it and it's not 100% balanced, because it's very difficult to play with a camera like that. So just by touching it, a lot of times it's out of whack. Okie doke. What's the fix for low pH and hard water? My pH is 6.4 to 6.8. That's a huge spread, by the way. And hardness 300 parts per million with the co-op test strips. I use crushed coral to fix that, and the next thing you're going to say is, but I have hard water. Yes, that doesn't matter though. Crushed coral is my go-to, so my long-term fix is crushed coral. My quick fix is baking soda or the marine salt. And so we actually have someone spotted Murphy's got either cis or ick, and actually I got a ping someone asked for the update, but there's got some spots on them. And so we tested the water, and the pH is too low. It's at like 6.4. And so we put 10 pounds of crushed coral mixed into the gravel, and we put a cup of marine salt into that tank, which it's a 360-gallon aquarium. So don't go putting a cup of salt into your 55 or something. That would be way too much. But the marine salt has the pH buffers in it and a lot of other minerals. And we wanted to basically bring it up a little bit, give it a little bit of a boost while waiting for the crushed coral over the next few days to a week and a half or so. Finish bringing it up. So, yeah, I'm asking for an update because we were doing the standard, is it ick or is it something else? And when you do that, I like to see, with ick, you'll see the spots multiply. And over the next day or two, 48 hours, and ick is a very slow killing disease. So you've got that time. Whereas if you use the wrong med, you could kill something right away. And so I haven't gotten the report back on. In fact, I'm gonna text them right now. So, oh, so I can get an update. All right, here. Do-do-do. If I don't do it now, then I'll forget by the time people come home from the store. Sith Lord with 5 memberships. Boom. Roasted. Any tips on preventing pH swings when using CO2? I don't worry about it. I'm not. What I haven't seen, I've read lots of studies but what I haven't seen in practical use, I haven't watched in my aquariums the artificial is the wrong word, temporary pH swings from CO2 have any negative effect on inhabitants in my tanks. So I do have crushed coral in all my tanks, but that swing I haven't noticed become a problem. Whereas, so with my fish, because I keep a lot of live bears and stuff, if I'm not using CO2 or anything, and my pH is just naturally like 6.4, my fish will be hurting, they'll be gasping, they'll be looking terrible, right? Whereas if I have a pH of, let's say, 7.5, and I'm injecting CO2, and then I test my pH and it shows 6.4, I have none of those symptoms of distress. And so my official statement so far, this far in my hobby, is I wouldn't worry about that because I haven't seen it be a detriment in 20 years. Everyone's got a different system though, and maybe your system is showing signs of distress and everything, and that's why you're asking, in which case I would see, well, where are you starting? Because maybe you're starting, like this is a good story actually. When I very first started opening the store in the first year, I think it was about 3 months into it, I had a woman that came in, she had a 75-gallon aquarium, and she was claiming at the time that Easy Green was killing her clown loaches. And I said, that's so bizarre because I've used my own version of Easy Green when I was mixing it myself for years and years and years with clown loaches. And at the time, I had a 180-gallon tank with clown loaches in the store that we regularly dosed Easy Green with. And, she was agitated for sure. And, she's like, well, I haven't changed anything because we were just opened, right? And you get a lot of this when you open a store. I haven't changed anything. The only thing that changed is Easy Green. It has to be Easy Green. And so, I'm defending the store and Easy Green myself and going, well, I'm not sure. I can't be sure, right? We don't have tens of thousands of people using it like we do now, but, bring some water in. Let's take a look. And sure enough, she brings the water in and the pH is like 6.2. The clown loach's skin is basically melting. You can actually have something happen called a pH burn. And so pH burn is happening. And what long story short, we fix the pH by adding crushed coral. She does some water changes and we get that stable again. Clown loaches are hunky-dory, no more deaths or anything like that. So that was the answer. And oftentimes people run into problems with pH because they're not watching it, or I haven't done anything, right? And that's the problem. In aquariums, we get into trouble when we haven't done anything for a long time. It's kind of like, your house, like, well, can't go wrong. I haven't done any maintenance in 12 years. Like, well, there's things that just naturally are going to get worse and we need to step in. And pH is one of those. Think about pH is normally, it's always getting worse slowly. And if we don't do anything to counteract that, it will be problematic at some point. That some point for everybody will be different. That could be next week, could be in 10 years, could be in 4 months, right? Because different amounts of fish and different ecosystems are traveling at different rates. And so it's very easy for us to become comfortable with our aquariums. They're dialed in. Maybe you're got kids, they just are a freshman now, and the things have been dialed in, and now they're graduating, going to college. And the hobby just wasn't what it was. And so maybe you're down to, maybe I just feed the fish every week, and I should water change more, but I'm doing it every few months, and I was doing it every 2 weeks, or whatever your schedule was. I think all of us have fallen into that trap, and usually people say, I never have fallen into that trap. Usually you're new to the hobby. You will. Year 14, you might go, you know what? I'm a little lazy this 6 months. And there, I mean, obviously there's always gonna be people that are like diligent. They would never miss something, but the real world, most of us have a busy life. Let's see. Easy green's the most dangerous thing to add to your tank if you don't want lush plants. That's right. Great shirt color. Well, I was gonna wear a green one of these, but as I was eating some potato salad, somehow the fork like sprang it and it hit me, and then my wife sprayed vinegar and stuff on it so it wouldn't stain. So then I had to switch shirts. Last minute wardrobe change. You know how that goes. Then they had to do my makeup. It was crazy. Any chance I can look into attending a Canadian aquatic experience next year? It's held in September. Can I look into it? I could. Will I commit to it? Not yet. And no, I'm not going to Aquashella this weekend. Jimmy will be there. Fritz will be there, obviously. A lot of creators will be there. I know KG Tropicals, Prime Time. The thing, I almost was going to show up. If I didn't, so the problem is I fly out of China on Tuesday. And it's not ever a good idea to like shake hands with 7,000 people, get super sick, and then get onto a plane to China. So that timing wasn't going to work out. But if I was going to show up, I'm actually super duper stoked that Danny's Aquariums, they're flying him in, which I've been a friend of his for a long time. Well, I like to think so. Maybe he doesn't consider me a friend, but I consider him a friend. And I've been in Europe and I've hung out with him for like a half day here and there. In a couple days at Vivarium, but he's coming to America. I would love to show him around, and so yeah, if you get a chance, show Danny's Aquarium some love if you're into the saltwater scene. If you're not, just say, hey, Corey, wishes he could be here. Let's see here. Hi, Corey. Any red plants that don't need CO2? Yeah. Dwarf aquarium lilies are the easiest ones to grow. Kind of add water, will make more red. Then after that, I like Scarlet Temple. Scarlet Temple likes really high light. It likes CO2, but it doesn't have to have it. But really high light will get it without CO2. If you just have like medium light and CO2, it'll also be really happy. Trying to think of other, but dwarf lilies are the best. By the way, here's the update, the live update, right? So I said, update on the spots on Murphy. Brandon, the store manager, says they're looking much better, but not 100% gone. I did a pH check today, and it's right about 7. So now I'm assuming it's on the mend. That's right. I'm basically a puffer wizard. The common wisdom would have been like, start treating with ICX and this and that, but I feel like I know Murphy and some of my fish well enough, and whenever I've really dealt with it with Mubu puffers, it's so rare for them to actually get ick, and much more likely for them to become stressed out from some factor and then present cysts. I don't know why. Maybe we see it more, like because puffers are considered scaleless, and I don't agree with that, but a puffer's skin is more like our skin, right? Where a normal fish has all these scales and you don't really see the skin. And so those cysts probably happen at the same rate on all fish, but fish with scales that cover that up, they're not nearly as visible to us all the time. And so I think that's why with the puffers, I've got that spidey sense of like, I'm pretty sure it's something in the environment stressing it out and it's not actually ick, because with our like showpiece fish like the Murphy and Ladybird, we go through such crazy lengths of quarantine before anything ever gets added. Like when we added Rummy Nose Tetras to Murphy, it was 6 months in quarantine and meds and really checking that the odds of ick popping up out of nowhere isn't impossible, but much lower. And so I'm glad to hear that seems like things are going on the right way. And that would be one of my biggest tips for you guys. When you think you have ick, check the water. So the first thing they did when they found it, they gravel vacked. So always kind of gravel vac and just do maintenance. Make sure that the filters aren't extra cruddy or anything like that. Just remove organics and stuff. Then look at the water, and we noticed, oh, pH was low. We remedied that. Because if you don't remedy what is causing the stress, whether it is ick or not, it's much harder to treat it. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of times people say move it to a quarantine tank, because the logic is a quarantine tank will already have good parameters. But by fixing the parameters, fish get better. So kind of like humans. If you're overworked and you're stressed and you're coming down with a cold and all of these things and you just look like a train wreck, aka me on a Wednesday normally, right? Not getting enough sleep, whatever. The best thing you can do is improve your environment. Take the day off tomorrow. Don't go to work. Sleep more. Get some hot fluids in you. Drink more water. All of those things. All of a sudden, you're more on the mend. Now, if 2 days later, you're going, oh, I'm still getting worse, that's when you go to the doctor, right? You go, hey, maybe I got the flu or maybe I got something going on. And that's what we did for Murphy is like, well, I want to wait 48 hours. And tomorrow, how's it look? And the following day, how's it look? Now, if at any point we saw it was getting worse, and a lot of times new fish keepers don't know what worse is. So sometimes they might go, well, I've got 38 spots on my fish, and tomorrow I have 39. Is that worse? No, to me that's the same. What ick would do is if you have 38 spots today, tomorrow you'd have 79. That's worse. And then day 2, 442, right? That's ick doing its thing. Cis, or stress ick as I call it, it's more like here's some spots, tomorrow same amount of spots, the next day same amount of spots, and if you make the environment better, here's some spots, next day maybe there's a few less, day 2, wow, I think it's much better. And we still evaluate, and you still watch any fish like that for probably a month, every day just looking, are we on the mend? And when something is on the mend or doing better, I don't try to interject. So if a fish is breeding, I don't try to stop it. If a fish was sick and now it's getting better, I don't try to monkey with it. All of those things, I try to let nature, like nature is solving this, let it keep going before I put meds in. All right. It sounds like the weed eater is done. And let's see. Nope, we're still good, but it's hot in here. So I'm going to open them up. Give me a sec. This is a problem only I have. I stepped on my co-op bag, and I got the Aquariumcoop barcode on my toe. Go over here. All right. Woo, it's warm. Is there a fish you'd like to see become more popular in the hobby? Lots of fish, really. I suspect... No, that one's too easy. That's like a gimme. I would love to see more people become fanatical about Danios. They're usually pretty hardy. I feel like they're underpriced, and they don't have to have heated tanks. They're very active. They're not that hard to breed on, a lot of them. And yeah, that's what I would Danios. Can wild fish get ick? I believe so. This is the backyard hobbyist answer. I believe the answer is yes, but in the wild, it's not a captive environment. So if we have a fish with 5 spots on it, and those drop off, and they hatch out into 10 spots, because they're in the same aquarium, they attach to the fish, and that cycle keeps going. In the wild, if you have an ick cyst on you, and it drops off, by the time it hatches out, you might be 4 miles down the river or on the other side of the lake, and it might attach to a different fish. Or it could be so vast it doesn't find a new host. So I believe the answer to be yes, but it's not nearly the same problem that we deal with in our confined systems. Oh, by the way, I haven't filmed it yet, but there are mystery fry in Ladybird's tank. And I really, really don't know what they are. I got to film them The only things that are in there are reticulated hillstream loaches, horseface loaches, ladybird, autocinklus, and flagfish. And I would put money they look like a Corydora. So I'm thinking maybe they're Aspiodorus. We might have had Val in there floating, and maybe they laid some eggs on it. So I'm super excited to see. They're only like this big, so they're pretty tiny. I'm excited to see what they grow out to be. The 800 gallon, it's always surprising with new things that get going in there. I've added some fish into quarantine from a new vendor. 7 rummy nose and 10 barbs died overnight. 7 swords and 5 angels are fine. Try not to overthink it. It's, there's a lot of variables there. Was shipping super rough? Was there drastically different water conditions? What was the quarantine process? I don't like the analogy necessarily of like one species of fish doing well and one not doing well, because that doesn't really tell us anything, right? If there was a virus that killed humans and the dogs were left alive, that doesn't really tell us a lot. So what I would focus on is, assuming they all went to the same tank. This is one of the reasons why maybe this is something to share with you guys. I make it standard practice to take pictures of all fish in bags when I order them. It used to be I always took video. That's really good too, because it's much harder to fake a video. Not that it can't be done. But if you're ever trying to go back with a vendor and you go, hey, these arrived dead, and you have the video of like opening the box, pulling them out, and they're dead, that's pretty much irrefutable proof. And you get new ones and stuff like that. You can take a picture, right? But one of the reasons I like doing that is in this scenario where now you have some fish that have died, if you had video and pictures, you can go back to yesterday and go, okay, well, what did I miss? Did I miss anything? Like, oh yeah, they did have some nips on the tail. They were super washed out, which the rummy nose should have been. Was the water a different color? Did they all ship from the same place? And I say that because there's a place that keeps getting mentioned online. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they have an insane selection of fish because all they're doing is marking up every other website on the internet and then drop shipping them. So what does that mean? That means if Corey wants a pistogrammas and I buy them through this website for $30 each, they're buying from another website for $20 each, and they're putting in my shipping address to have them shipped there. Now, if you ordered 5 different fish, you'd be getting fish from 5 different companies. And so that is much different, in my opinion, than ordering from one source where they likely all have the same water and they would have been exposed to the same diseases and all of those things. So, I would. There's a lot of questions about how to get through that quarantine. We lost some stuff, and it's one of the reasons I'm still glad that we don't do live fish, because it's a difficult way to navigate to make money. Lennon's 14 years old from the UK, and he's got 26 tanks. He's breeding discus and rare plecos. Would you give me any tips? My tip would be this. Being that you're 14, you've got this passion, and hopefully it's going well for you. Know at some point you will lose that passion. Probably. You might have to go to university. You might have a job change. Something will happen. But the important part with the fish is to realize that you had success doing something. Maybe it's with nature, that kind of stuff. And that will be applicable to lots of parts of life. It'll mean you can get ahead in your career. You can build a nice life for yourself. Those things. And then at some point, you're going to come back. And you're going to go, hey, now that life is stabilized, I'm going back to 26 tanks. And it'll be great. But don't get super discouraged if life changes and you don't get to be a fish breeder for the rest of your life. You might burn out. There's all these things that might happen. And but good for you. The tips as far as selling and all that, they're on the channel. life tips though, know that there's always boom bust cycles, and you might be booming right now, but at 17 maybe you're going, yep, we're on the bus, we're slimming down because I've got to move or I've got to do something. You can always build back up though. All right, guess in my eye. Can water temperature affect male to female ratio of fry like the temp of turtle eggs? There's been studies, but I feel like nothing is conclusive enough where I say yes. Some studies will say yes, they've noticed some differences. Some will say no. Some say it's only certain species of fish. I don't think I have good evidence to be like these species are for sure. As an aside, today Katie noticed that my turtle egg incubator was geeking out. It kept beeping, and it had locked the temperature at 5 Celsius, which is very too cold. So I've unplugged it, and now I gotta, before I go to China, make an emergency hatcher myself, which is not too involved, but I'll probably make a video, and hopefully, the 24 hours or so that we weren't in that room, up to 24 hours, could have happened 10 minutes before we walked in the room, but hopefully it didn't do any damage. That would be real bummer to have, like, we had 18 eggs, no, they're not, none of them are viable. That'd be super bad. So I'm gonna make a video on it probably just because I wanna wrap up that cycle of, I bought this egg incubator so I could be a more responsible turtle keeper, and technology has let me down horribly, where the way I was doing it in the past, which I'll show you guys again, was kind of seemed fail-proof and awesome. And I thought, let me level up to like a more advanced thing. And then here we are. I might have gotten, kick in the bum for it. So we'll hope not. We'll hope they'll do well. Did I get my longfin neon tetras? Not yet. Well, yes, we have them. I have the ultimate luxury of stuff goes to the store sometimes. Because this came from Aquahuna, we order from every week. And by the way, you get a 5% discount if you put Aquariumcoop at checkout. And I get a little cut too. I get the added benefit. They're going through quarantine at the store. So likely they'll sit there for the next 2 or 3 weeks, kind of while I'm in China, and I sell when I get back. I'll get a tank ready. We'll bring them over and make a video about them and show them off. See if they're cool. Don't tell me the site online you're talking about is Redfish Bluefish. It's not that website. It's literally some random website. Why, are they doing it too? I have no idea. I've finally taken the plunge and bought 5 juvenile zebra plecos. I've done my research, but any advice from you would be great. Well, expect them to die before they breed. Usually the years it takes to grow them out, something catastrophic goes wrong. It's happened to me, it's happened to Bob, it's happened to other people, it's happened to Dean like 3 times. And so just know that these fish are kind of cursed. Other than that, they like hot temps and eat a ton of food, and they like a lot of flow. All the things we've read. At a basic level, fish like to be happy, and they like to be happy when you feed them, you keep them clean, and you give them what they want. Something usually goes wrong in that plan. Crazy power outage, a heater breaks, a thing does a thing. And so you're putting in as many layers of protection as you can. But even then, it's really hard to put enough layers of protection in that, like the last batch for Dean, power outage and out of town. There's only so much you can do with that. And that, I think, why zebra plecos end in the bad story is that a lot of other species of fish that are common or popular, right? So zebra plecos are popular, but so are guppies, and so are Scleroptilidaneos and other stuff. It doesn't take years before they'll breed, right? And so you get the bad story of like, oh, I've been growing these things for 3 years, and then this happened, where With another species of fish, you might have for 6 months, you get them breeding and you've got them in 4 or 5 tanks, and then something bad happens. But good thing, I've got 4 tanks full of fry, or I've got this going on. And you're just unlikely to have that with the zebra plecos. So that's why I think so often we hear, oof, that's rough. And it's also a lot of money and a big investment. And a lot of times people are making that investment. I watch it all the time at the store. They're like, if I spend $1,000 now, they're pretty much going to make me rich. And as Dean would say, never count your fish before you've gotten the money, because a lot of things can go wrong. Bianca just got off work. All right, I'm in the middle of work right now. Let's see. What causes a tank to stink like death? I've got no dead fish, but I can't tell if there's any dead ram's horn snails. Could my smashing of pest snails be the issue? Have cories in the tank and thought they'd eat them. So those of you who've been around for a long time, you're probably going to go, I know what Corey's about to say. If I was forced to make an educated guess, I would guess what you've described. And you're going to say no, but don't count me wrong until you go check. I would wager you have food on the rim of your aquarium, and after cleaning that, the stench of death will be gone. I've fixed so many people's stench of death this way, because what happens a lot of times, you're feeding food, and it only takes 1 or 2 pellets to make it smell terrible. 1 or 2 pellets, especially if you have a lid. That lid gets all moist and rotten, and after about a week and a half, it starts smelling like death. Think of it this way. It kind of smells like rotting fish death that has gotten heated to 78 degrees over the past week and a half and is nice and moist, and it's fermenting there, and every time you open that aquarium lid, you get a big old, ooh, that smells like death. And so my preferred method is grabbing paper towels and just getting them wet, and then going all the way around that ring and cleaning the top, and then see if you still have the smell of death a couple days later. Give it that 48 hours, but that solves it probably 80% of the time. Then the other 20% of the time, maybe you could have ammonia buildup or a dead fish in the corner, something you don't see, but since you've eliminated most of that, I bet you it's a little bit of rotten food, and you'd be shocked at how little food can make such a big stink. Yeah, my stench of death always comes from the algae bucket I forget to dump. Yeah, rotten plants and anything rotting. Once something starts to rot, let's say you're taking out duckweed. Duckweed will do it. I'll put it in my garbage can, and then maybe it's a week later before I take it out. Like, whew, that duckweed smells terrible. Yeah. Kaylee chiming in with, I have the exact same problem. Nothing to do with food. When I gravel vac, the tank reeks so badly my whole house smells. No clue why. Only thing is I'm thinking I did too many root tabs. Okay, well, couple things. You shouldn't be gravel vacuuming where you have root tabs. 2, if there are root tabs, they wouldn't stink, because they're mostly not soil, but like clay compounds and dirt and that kind of stuff. You might get smell from, if your substrate's too thick, a lot of people do that, you'll get hydrogen sulfide gas buildup. And so if you're gravel vacuuming, and you see bubbles coming, that's hydrogen sulfide gas. Smells like rotten eggs. Very common in nature as well. Basically, organics pile up, and as they decompose, part of the decomposition process is they release gases. Those gases build up, and eventually they release, and then you get that bad smell. So it could be that. Anoxic gases? I don't know enough to know if I could say all of the gases that could happen down there would be anoxic. My guess is probably, but I think it's, gas buildup leaves me more leeway. I don't know if all gases that would build up will necessarily have to be anoxic. Seems logical, though. I talked my store into applying for the retail partner program in Portland, Oregon. Nice. Pets on Broadway? I was there just a few months ago. Yeah, they'd be the first store in Portland, by the way. Or, I mean, in Oregon. Not even just Portland, but all of Oregon. Can you set the co-op auto feeder to feed every other day and not every day? I've never tried, but I'm thinking through the settings. I don't think so. Intervals by day, how many times per day? You can't, yeah. I don't think so. I think you can only do it every day. Yeah. Have I ever kept bucktooth tetras? Not me personally. I've kept them at the store, but that basically gives you a glimpse into like maybe a month of care, whereas like keeping them personally, hopefully it's years of care, and you really learn a bunch about it. How high should I fill up my tank? I've got no clue, and I see a lot of conflicting advice. Me personally, I love tanks with rims, so the black rim tanks. That's my favorite style. I know a lot of people like rimless. I hate seeing the water line. For me, I like the water to be above the black rim, so I don't see a water line. Optimally, if you're running a hang-on back, you'd see ripples across the top, but mostly if I don't see the water line and I'm getting decent rippling from a hang-on back, that's the water level I like to run mine at. I also run top, so I don't have to worry about fish jumping. Huge shout out to you and Dean for igniting the fire to keep fish again. A big box store put the flame out a few years ago. Well, that's a bummer. Hopefully, less and less of that'll happen over the years, and more people staying in will happen. What are my tips for high-tech tanks with algae? Seems like I tried everything, including easy carbon. My tip would be read about the algae you have and strategically go about it. If we take the question away from algae, and so you've got a high-tech tank with algae. Now imagine I have a full commercial kitchen, right? With staff and all the latest like equipment in there, and we can't figure out how to make a sandwich. What's the trick for making a sandwich? That's essentially how that question reads. And then they come back with, like, you just follow the recipe. And so then you go, well, I am following the recipe, but sandwiches aren't coming out. So then we kind of go, well, let's go back to the recipe. Let's figure out where in the recipe you're going wrong. And usually you go back and forth a bunch. And you're going, okay, you're using way too much light. You're not doing enough of this. You're doing too much of that. Okay, you're water changing too often. Like, most people are trying so hard for perfection that it makes it worse. I'm sure you've met some people like that where you've had to say, like, just stop and let it do its thing. And that's a lot of time what algae is. Kind of stop, slow down, reassess. Like, I watch people all the time, they dose easy iron. Well, I've got a red plant, I need iron. Like, but did you read Easy Green? It already has iron in it. And like adding easy iron, for instance, would give you tons of hair algae if it doesn't get all used. And so that's why we don't push easy iron a lot, because most people won't need it. Doesn't mean no one does, but most people probably have enough iron from Easy Green for the amount. But a lot of people, they err on the side of more is better. More lighting, more water changes, more food, more iron, more big tank, more this, more that, more that. And all of those mores together leads to more complicated, right? And in the hobby right now on YouTube, we're seeing the polar opposite of that. Less. If you go too far on the other spectrum, you actually make it more complicated as well. There's this nice sweet spot. I've actually got a whole video coming out on my opinion on aquarium keeping in general. And the TLDR is do what you want to do and have fun. But I do think there's a lot of methods being thrown out there, and every method can work, but do you want it to work that way? You know, if you take it and put it in a different context, let's imagine instead of aquarium keeping, we're wanting to get to work. Someone's going to ride their skateboard, someone's going to walk, someone's going to drive a car, someone's going to drive a semi-truck, someone's going to ride a bike. Someone's going to carpool. Someone's going to ride public transit. Someone's going to take a helicopter. Those are all ways you can get to work. And they all work. Everyone's getting to work. Maybe public transit, you had to leave an hour earlier. Maybe carpool is inconvenient because of XYZ. Maybe driving your car costs a lot of money. Maybe the semi-truck, because your other car is broken, there's nowhere to park. Each have their own set of challenges and problems, but done correctly, all get you to work. And that's what I think of aquarium keeping. It's not that these types of way of keeping aquariums don't work. It's that which one of those do you want to be? Do you want to ride the bike? Do you want to ride mass transit? Do you want to drive your car? Do you want to take the helicopter? Do you want to move next door so you just walk? That's really what it's about. Show me all the ways in which I can get to work, and then I will choose one that fits me and my schedule. And don't be afraid to change. Maybe you're the guy who's riding your bike to work, and then it turns out they're doing construction on the road, and that's not safe anymore. Or maybe you now have to drop your kid off at school, and you don't want to get up 2 hours early to get to work. It's okay to change. Whatever works for you works for me. Because let's be honest, I really don't care how you keep your aquariums. I want you to be successful, but if you love looking at this shot glass, right, with one seed shrimp in it, and you love it, and you spend 10 hours a day watching it, good on you, right? Just as much as me in the 800 gallon where I'm looking at Ladybird. That's the important part. Get to the chopper. That's right, I gotta get to work. Pumpkin shirt. Yep. My green shirt got vinegared. Matt, you can always... Matt's our editor. You can always pull me raging on a live stream and maybe throw that into that video. TLDR. Or we'll make it a short and release it somewhere. Maybe not short, but like, yeah. Let's see here. Is it normal for a common pleco to eat off the surface and eat flake food and not eat algae wafers? I definitely have seen that. Common plecos want a stupid amount of food. And the thing I would say about algae wafers is they're definitely not all created equal. There are some very, very low quality wafers. And I think that stems from the things that eat wafers are scavengers and therefore will eat almost any garbage. It's kind of like maybe if a bunch of manufacturers went out to make food for raccoons, trash pandas. The bar is not very high. They'll eat anything, right? And plecos are kind of like, they'll eat anything. And so if you put out this panda food, aka your garbage for the raccoons, and then next door, or not next door, but like 10 feet away, you lay out a plate of barbecue hot dogs and hamburgers, where do you think that raccoon's going? He's going for that. And that's what's going on. If you have like extreme krill flakes up top, and you're like, here's some Tetra algae wafers that suck down below, he's going to eat the flake. But what my recommendation would be, level it up. Level it up. What could you feed that common pleco that he would love? Defrosted frozen shrimp. He would love that. Like not cube, but like grocery store shrimp. He'd love to rasp on that. Rapashi food would be great. Some zucchini. There's options. And really what I would go is that's a peculiar behavior. Why is this fish doing this? Is it they're quirky? Could be. Is it they might be telling me something? Yeah, they might be telling me something. So. Let's see here. A few weeks ago, I got a banana plant, and I'm enjoying it. A few days ago, it floated to the top, and now it's floating. Is this normal? It's a little bit normal. Yeah. There's sister species of banana plants that don't even have the bananas, like Nymphoides species Taiwan. So yeah, that can be fairly common. They will do that. All right. Eventually, some company is going to release an all-in-one fish keeping system. It will be a filter, a heater, a feeder, a CO2 system. It will connect to an app. It'll have a camera. Is this the co-op future? No way. In my opinion, what that'll do is that'll make lazier fish keepers that rely on an app that'll be less in tune with what their fish are doing. Now, would we put a kit together that hopefully makes you successful? Sure. But, in my opinion, when you get to the point where you're using a camera and everything's automated, how far away are we from just having a fish screensaver on our computer? Not that far, really. Like, why I keep aquariums is the part that I can't automate and can't predict. Like Ladybird, yep, you feed her the clam, she eats it, she poops it out, you clean it, that's predictable. What's not predictable is the algae. Even though I hate battling it, I learn from it. And the baby fish. Those are the parts I keep it for. So, if all of a sudden now I'm only watching it through a camera, I'm going to miss the babies. I won't be able to interact with the algae and all of these things. So I have no doubt someone will do it. But to do it and be affordable and to not, like both Dean and I, since we fully automated different parts of fish rooms and stuff, if it's like anything, we've gone all the way. And what we realized is that's too far. There's actually a sweet spot going back about 10%. And so there are things that you learn by having done it, and then you can back off to where it was enjoyable again. And so I don't think most people would find that super enjoyable when you spend more time looking at an app for parameters and then looking at your fish than you do like actually looking at your fish. So no doubt someone will do it though, I think. Can I add brine shrimp eggs to my tank and just let them live out life? In a saltwater aquarium, yes, you can. In freshwater, unlikely that they will hatch and probably just get eaten. Oh no, someone's trolling me. The Waze filter plus heater is supposed to be brilliant. No, not brilliant. Designed, not optimal. Must fight it. Won't go on the rant today. All right. I wouldn't want one device with that many points of failure. Could be a true statement as well. Hill streams have been known to be aggressive. Not in my tanks. I'm sure there's like aggression between male dominance and stuff, but I've never had in my personal aquariums where I'm sitting there going, if only that hillstream loach would stop attacking my tetra or something. I'm sure there's some ground aggression between bottom dwellers, but I usually don't load up too many bottom dwellers. Here we go. For some reason, my hillstream loach attacks my Amazon puffer every time he gets nearby. I always thought they were friendly. How big is your tank? How big is the line of sight blocks? And my guess would be that hillstream loach is a male wanting to breed. Whether it's a male or female or not, he's trying to claim a territory and make sure that if a lady did come around and they laid eggs, he could defend it. So line of sight blocks are like, let's say you're the hillstream loach and I'm the puffer, right? And if you see me, you attack me. Well, if I can put enough hands in front, you can't see me anymore. And if you do that, out of sight, out of mind. And so long plants and boulders and things in the way of, he might go, this corner is mine, as long as you can't see me. And so line of sight blocks do wonders for any kind of aggression in an aquarium. Joshua has been a member for 9 months, and he says, hit that like button. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. My hillstream loaches are very territorial. I think the smallest aquariums I've really kept my hillstreams in 65 gallons. Most of my tanks that I've kept them in are like 125s or like right now they're in the 800 gallon. So definitely as you like my experience won't be everybody's experience. Keeping a 10-gallon would be different. And a lot of times, like when we recommend them at the store for a 10-gallon or something, it'd be one. So you wouldn't have, you know, you wouldn't have the group. I don't like Oase because it's not Aquariumcoop. It's not true. There's plenty of brands I actually like that are not Oase. I like Flute Wall still, even though they're tripping. I like Eheim, even though they're tripping. I like Extreme. Wait, did I say Eheim was tripping? That's not true. But no, I would say, I would go out on a limb and say I like most brands. Yeah, because there's lots of brands that have good products. The problem I have with Oase is I don't think they have one good one. Like they've got a lot of rebranded stuff. And there's just some stuff that I really shake my head. But yeah. How would you breed spotted blue rainbow fish? I would keep them in a 10-gallon tank probably. And I would float mops in there, let them sit for 10 days. Then I would move those mops into another tank that had nothing, maybe a small 5-gallon or something, hatch out the fry, use microscopic foods, probably some Repashy powder floating on the top, green water if I had it, raise up those fry. 6 months later, you'd be a lot happier. Nathan says, Corey, you are a madman. I just sniffed the glass lid and it's pretty stinky. I'll take your advice and clean it. I'm just saying, with enough repetitions, like I do this Q&A for a couple hours every week, but realize I did this in basically retail store every minute of every day for 10 years, 5 years before I opened and like 5 years after I opened. So you end up diagnosing an insane amount of stuff when you do it 10 times an hour, 40 hours a week for 10 years. You kind of see it all, hear it all. And so you get pretty good at, I remember this other person had about him. I bet you I would have liked Wardley 40 years ago. I bet you, old school. Let's see here. What's an unusual schooling fish for a Hillstream tank, unlike the normal stuff you see everywhere for a 20 long? If you want to go unusual and good at schooling, blue-eyed rasbora, a very understated fish that is awesome in a group. Doesn't Girl Talk Fish keep Hillstreams in a smaller tank? Yeah, probably. I don't really track what all my employees keep in their tanks because we've got 30 of them, and honestly, I don't watch the videos because I'm busy, and I have to proof videos that she makes for our channel, and yeah, so probably. I mean, Hillstream loaches are awesome. Let's see. I've been cleaning my glass lids weekly. Well, that's definitely more than I would. I was being a neat freak, but all the airstone pops bubbles on the lid. I know it could get icky. Let it get icky. That's what I say. More enjoying, less cleaning. To a point. In extreme, that's, bad too. Can you add crushed coral to an external filter rather than the substrate to get the pH up? Yes, but know that it will run out of its buffering ability faster. It will also buffer it up faster. I also find, so I like gravel vacuuming. When I vacuum a tank, it's therapeutic. I enjoy it. The hands are wet. I'm really in tune with that tank. And so with crushed coral mixed in the gravel, I'm cleaning it. When you put it in a filter, it dissolves faster, but it gets dirty really fast too. And so you need to be cleaning it all the time for it to stay, have the same efficacy. I don't know if you can use the word efficacy when describing dissolving coral into water, but we notice it in the sumps in the warehouse. We have to replace that coral much more often and keep it cleaner than we do when we put it just in the aquariums like at the store. So, yes, you can do it. It's not my preferred method, but hey, maybe I'm driving a car to work and you want to ride a bike. It'll work. It'll work. Please release some new t-shirt designs. No. If anything, I think we released more t-shirt designs this year than we ever have. I think it's at least 4. I'm still on the adamant train. I would have never released another one. I like that OG shirt. In fact, I thought about having another run of them done just because mine are getting super old and scraggly, and I still like it. It's like the retro look for me. So, unlikely we'll do another shirt for a while just because we did a bunch. It is warm enough now to start breaking out the baseball tee if you got that one. Wonder shell and a hang on back? Yeah, you could do it. It'll dissolve faster. Could be done. How do you know how much crushed coral to add? I breed guppies, a pair of 20 long, and my pH is around 6.8 to 7. So with things that naturally want high pH and harder water, that could be like live bears, African cichlids, rainbow fish, goldfish. A lot of times I'll just have all the substrate be crushed coral. In fact, I should do that. Maybe I'll do that. I'm going to do that to show people. I used to run a lot of my tanks that way. Fully planted, all crushed coral works awesome for me. If you're in a situation where it's like, well, I don't necessarily have fish that love hard water, I just don't want it to crash, we like to use 1 pound per 10 gallons of water sprinkled into the gravel. That's why we sell it in 1 pound packs. So if you got a 50-gallon tank, spread in 5 pounds after rinsing it really well. Yeah, and if you need lots, right? Sometimes people will be like, "Hey, this guy's trying to gouge us, selling crushed coral for like $4 or $5 a pound." We have to ship it. If you need tons of crushed coral, go to your local store. We got over 100 retail partner stores. Go in there and go, "I want the 40-pound bag that's like $40 or $50 because I got all the tanks that need crushed coral." We don't really make money shipping crushed coral around the country, so I'm just dispensing the advice. And you find a way to make it work for you. I lost power for 52 hours, which, by the way, I was following that on the forum. Ridiculously long, he says. The co-op battery air pumps kept the air going for a while, and most lived. They worked and saved so many for me. We also, in that thread, which you guys can go and read, we're talking about ways, if that was going to happen again, how can you make it easier? I think that's that's a very good thing to be doing. Like, if I didn't have power in this room, what would happen? And you start learning, like, oh my gosh, I need a flashlight like in this room. I need to get this air pump off the ground because it doesn't have a check valve. I need, and have a battle plan like kind of written down. So Dean, I love his system. He, on the back of his door in his fish room, he's got a little cork board, and he puts instructions there. So that way, like, imagine you're out of town and power goes out. You would love to have an instruction sheet of like, in this drawer is the flashlight, in this drawer is the battery pump, in this and this and this, so that you're trying to do that over the phone and they can just, keep your fish alive. That's the kind of stuff you'd want to be doing when you're breeding puffers and zebra plecos and you've got a fish room. Be prepared for when it goes wrong. Like at the store, we have a generator, we've got the cords, we've got the backup gas, we know exactly how to run them. We test them every year to make sure they're ready and working order. Even though we have battery backups for our air pumps, we need to keep frozen stuff cold, we need to keep warm stuff warm. Mostly people, unfortunately, do a trial by fire. 3 months from now, your power goes out and you're like, I guess I should start thinking about this. When it's a lot easier, if you do yourself a favor, and we're trying to do that kind of industry-wide now, the more air pumps that we sell that have a built-in battery backup, the easier it's going to be able to get through those couple of days, right? And so we're routinely trying to help with that. Heat's a hard one. It takes a lot of energy. So, there's not going to be a battery-powered heater that's going to make sense for a lot of people, but... Is there any way for shirts to be ordered to Australia? There's one way. Let me see if I can find the link. You can also get some limited edition merch this way too. Not limited, but like super rare. That's the right word. We have a Teespring where you can get some. Oh, do we not have? Oh, those are just the featured ones. What happened? We should have more. Oh wait, I get the load more button. Yeah, Aquariumcoop. See if this link works for everybody. Those shirts and mugs and that kind of stuff will ship internationally. It can take you like a month and a half to get them, so just know that. But that is a way you can get. And there's even the cooperative shirt. It's rare, but I see people show up in person to events sometimes with the cooperative shirt, and that's how I know they're old school. I love that cooperative shirt. What's the best way to breed cherry shrimp? Do you have to have a heater with them? How do I do water changes without accidentally getting baby shrimp when I do it? I don't run heaters with my cherry shrimp, and honestly, I barely ever change water on those tanks. But if you were going to do that, you could use a piece of sponge in the hose, or you could put a net around it, or some used pantyhose, just something to strain them out. Any thoughts on fish keeping in Hawaii? Not so much, other than I love the fact that you've got all the warm temperatures, and I'd be keeping a lot more fish indoor outdoor type of scenario. Like you get in my mind a lot of free heat. And so I'd be using that to my advantage to make little garden ponds and stuff all over the place. Have ever heard of anyone using Kang Kong in an aquarium? I don't know what that is. I recently heard about being super great in ponds with quality issues. I have no idea what it is, so no, I haven't heard of that. I just stare into the water bucket and manually net any fish or any shrimp and put them back in. Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to check any wastewater before you dump it, for sure. Hey, thanks for the salt tip last week. Seems to have worked. Do me a favor. If something works for you, try and add a little bit of like what it was about. Like salt tip for brine shrimp, or was it for, just fertilizing plants? I just won the best in show at my local club's bull show with a line of guppies from Twin City Guppies I've had for 3 years. That's awesome. Bull shows are fun, and I bet you've been riding that high for a while, getting recognized by your peers. You won best in show. That's awesome. I finally got a compliment in real life from someone I didn't know last week, because I do get compliments from my wife and other people, but from someone I didn't know. Someone walking down the street said, "Your yard's looking good." And I said, "Thank you." And I've been holding on to that compliment all week of like, yeah, that's why I've been getting sunburned and getting up early to work on the yard before the sun kills me. So it's good to see, to get that little compliment. So if that was one of you, thank you. Which other air pump on the market would you consider to be my biggest competition? I've never really thought about that. Well, I bet you our biggest competitor would be the Tetra Whisper pumps, just because they're like in every chain store, and I'm pretty sure if you log into Amazon, they send you like 9 of them for free because they're stupid cheap and they're just everywhere. But I feel like they could do. I'm always like, I always struggle with, like, the Tetra Whisper air pump has been around since I entered the hobby over 20 years ago, right? And they haven't gotten better. They're not a bad air pump. So, but what kind of blows me away is they're not perfect, but they're good. but they haven't closed the gap between good and perfect in 20 years. Like, it hasn't moved at all. I think the only thing they did is they changed the rubber foot to a different shape. Let me make sure that's true. And I feel like there's so many things you could be doing, and I'm guilty of it too. We're always trying to improve. Can we afford to do that this year? And maybe Tetra's in the same boat. I don't know. Tetra Whisperer air pump. They sell it in black and in blue. I think the black ones might only be Walmart brand. Yeah, but I feel like if you've been making air pumps for the last 100 years, basically, not 100 obviously, but how do you not already have the battery air pump one? How do you not have, like, what am I trying to say? It used to be you could buy a Tetra Whisper air pump and you could walk into your local fish store and buy the diaphragm repair kits. That doesn't exist anymore. Like, I don't think you can even buy repair kits. They just want you to buy a new air pump. And to me, that's going backwards. Like, we try and stock a bunch of parts for our gear that we sell, and we usually just give it away. But at some point, there will be a phase of Aquarium Co-op where we will sell parts for things to be repaired. Not always, like, it probably won't make sense for us to sell new batteries, for instance, but maybe we do sell replacement diaphragms and that kind of stuff, depending on the demand, but it's not that hard to repair. I've done it a billion times. So, yeah, I think there are probably our biggest look at this. You can get an air pump. This is just nuts. Right now on Amazon, you can get an air pump that's up to 10 gallons of the Tetra Whisper for $3.90, and that ships Prime, so it ships free. If you order that air pump, I guarantee everyone's losing money in that deal. It costs you more than $3.90 to ship that thing around the country. Yeah, that's nuts. $3.90. That's marketing. Like, we'll do anything to get the Tetra brand name in that. Who's selling it? Is it Amazon? Crazy. So someone out there is selling it for $4. Amazon comes in, knocks 10 cents off. Their algorithms do that. If you don't know that, by the way, basically there's algorithms. We can use them too, but we don't. You can scan, you enter in your competitors and the products and the UPCs and all that. It'll scan everybody's price like every hour, and then Amazon just has theirs to automatically undercut every time. And so if you get two algorithms doing that, they just go cut. That's how you get a $3.90 air pump. Because it's probably Amazon battling like Chewies.com or something. Let's see how much it is on Chewy. Whisper. And what's dumb is if I logged into a wholesale account, our price to buy that air pump is probably $7 or $10 or something. Yep. Here it is. Get the same air pump at Chewy.com for $3.90. Normally it's $10.49. That's that race to the bottom. No one's making money. Everyone's trying to undercompete. The consumer wins temporarily. And I say temporarily because what happens is eventually someone goes out of business and then they're like, guess what? Air pumps are $27 and they don't come with a battery. Mike Casey says, I was given a Murphy hoodie for Christmas, purchased from Teespring, very dissatisfied with the quality. Murphy had worn off in less than a year. Well, I don't like to hear that. Do me a favor, Mike. Email customer service, mention me, and find the email where you bought it. Or I guess it was given as a gift. Show them how much it costs. We'll give you a gift card for how much that costs. I don't like to hear that. The quality of Teespring is always going to be less than our quality just because they do print to demand. And if you're not a shirt nerd, you won't know. But basically, it's an image that gets printed out and heat transferred to your thing. Whereas like ours go through a silk screen process with a clear coat and a base coat. And so it lasts a super long time. So yeah, if you email us, we'll get you taken care of. Hopefully you're in the United States. Because if you're not in the United States, I don't know how to take care of you. But I don't like to hear that. I don't like our stuff not wearing well. In fact, better. Here's better. If you're in the United States, show them that one, and we'll send you a brand new one of our quality out. Even though it's more, well, I don't know if it's more expensive. I assume it's more expensive. We'll make it right. If we can make it right, we'll make it right. That's what we do. If we can make it right, we will make it right. Dang, I just paid $19.99 for a Tetra Whisper air pump at Petco. That'll happen. Although, I would say, I do love our air pumps with the battery backup. Does it come with a charge? Oh, you better believe it does. Dual outlet. Do you ever just take your Aquariumcoop air pump and cool yourself at the beach? You bet you didn't know it could do that, did you? Yep. Just one of the many features of the Aquariumcoop air pump. Are the large Aquatop Fusion air pumps as good as the smaller ones? I have no idea. They're not showing up on my Google, so I don't know. How often should I do Epsom salt bath for my swim bladder issues? I've got neon tetras. Did 10 minutes today. No idea. I'm not convinced that Epsom salt baths are an actual winning technology for fish. I definitely have seen people like, it cured everything. It was great. And then I've seen a lot of people waste a lot of time going, well, I've been doing Epsom salt baths for 3 weeks and nothing happened. So I'm not the person to ask because I don't fully believe in, it's my like last resort. Like, yeah, if I got nothing else to try, I guess you could try that. But let's see here. How much does the air pump cost? Our air pumps are probably too expensive. I say that in jest. Our air pumps are $24.99 for the single outlet and $34.99 for the dual outlet. They come with the battery backup, so when you lose power, or you go on a fishy vacation, or you're at the beach, you can get up to 20 hours of battery-operated air. And we got a sweet warranty and customer service and all that to go along with it. And you support the live stream when you buy one. So there's that too. I guess I don't mention that enough. You know, you support everything we do, all the education, all the blog articles, all the advice center, the forum, the Facebook, the educational talks, all that stuff. Every time you buy something, your money's getting in that pool to help. Also pays for all the employees, you know, and their health insurance and all that. And, you know, we don't even nickel and dime you. On the receipt, it's not going to say like employee health insurance fee, mandatory tip because Corey is awesome fee, other fee. You just pay what you pay. Do you think we'll see robot AI fish in the home aquarium? I think we will at some point. I don't think it'll catch on, but we already have had versions of that over the last like 30 years. There's some that like move with the waves. There's some that are battery powered. There's some I think I've seen that has fiber optic in it, so it catches the light from the aquarium light and actually lights them up a little bit. Interesting. I think at some point someone will do it, but I don't think it'll be widespread of like, well, thank goodness, I don't need to keep fish now. I can just keep my robot fish. I think when we really think about it, you spend a couple weeks thinking about why do I keep fish, right? And it's like, it's work. It costs me money. It's difficult. It's messy. You know, like there's a lot of downsides to it. And I think when you really lay it out, you were doing it because of the downsides. Because you enjoy coming out the other side victorious. If I do all of these things, I get this result. So. Info Learning PH says, I like the channel and the content. More power to you. Thank you very much. You mean to do that thing California does on the receipts? To be fair, we do a little bit of it because like every package we ship to Colorado, we have to charge 25 cents to give to the government of Colorado. And if we don't put that on there, we're breaking the law. So there will be some things that get extra fees when mandated by the law. Otherwise, no. I tried to make it. I was gonna try to. So I'm so irritated by all the extra fees and that kind of stuff that we seriously looked into switching our retail store and everything to just, if it says that it's $25, it's $25. We'll include the tax and all this. But the accountant came back with like, it's a nightmare and it might actually be illegal to do in Washington. And I was like, of course, trying to make things easier could actually be illegal, even because we were just gonna put $25. So like in the single outlet air pump, like maybe it becomes it's 24 or it's $25.60, and then we ring it up, it's $24.60, and then we would just remit the tax to the government. Like it would just be fine, and it would just save steps in a lot of this, because a lot of the tax tracking is a nightmare. Talk to anybody who's selling any decent volume online and ask them how many accountants and how many hours are you spending every month trying to keep up with the madness. And a lot of them will be like, we're not. And then some are like, yep, I have 2 accountants just trying to keep up. Let's see. Is aquarium salt safe for mystery snails? In lower doses, I would say yes. Next live stream, fish time with Lando is planning to gift a membership. Well, there you go. By the way, I probably won't be live for a couple weeks. I'll be in China. So, you'll have to do without. Let's see here. I've got 3 bushy nose plecos, that's a lie. I've got a bushy nose pleco, 3 African dwarf frogs, a panda corridora, and I want to add some mollies or platies along with gouramis. Do I add the mollies or platies first or the gourami first? I would add the gourami last, being that it's the most likely thing to become territorial. And I would also just put a little like asterisk. Platies are probably going to thrive better in your water structure than the mollies, just because you've got some soft water fish, and mollies really, really like super hard water. You might already have that going, but platies will be a little more adaptive for you. Do we ship to other countries like New Zealand? We tried for a while, and it ended up being a lot of work and messy, so we don't anymore. We're still in talks with different companies and trying to work stuff out. Right now, basically, you can get our products in America, United States, and you can get them in Canada through April's Aquariums. We're hoping to kind of find partners in other countries that make sense and make it easy, or find some technology that will allow us to do a better job with forecasting. It's not even forecasting, but making sure people understand that your country requires X, Y, and Z and duties, and you have to pick it up, and you have to do this, and you have to sign for this, and you have to do that. None of that is imposed on us. Like, if it was up to us, hand us money, we'll hand you a product. All the other stuff that comes with that, like, we're not trying to make it harder. Can you use crushed coral for mystery snails to raise pH? You betcha you can. Yep. I have an Amano shrimp buried up. Is there any way I can move her to a brackish water tank and hatch the eggs? Yeah, there's been some success stories. Check out the forum and read online. It's a lot of work, but it can be done. Do vendors sell things at Aquashella? Going for the first time, and I want to prepare. What type of stuff is sold? Yeah, so you'll have the big companies, like I think API is going to be there, Tetra and Hikari, or not Tetra, Hikari and Fluval, right? And they won't sell anything. They're just going to be like, hey, look at our stuff. We do things, and we don't want to potentially make any of our partners angry, which would be Walmart, Petco, PetSmart, those types of things, Amazon. So they don't want to sell any because they don't want to make anyone angry. But then you'll have a slew of other mid-tier businesses that'll be like local pet stores and vendors that travel around the country selling stuff. And so I would say of, let's say if they claim they have 200 vendors, you could probably buy from 150 of them, and the best selection will happen early day one, but the cheapest prices will happen late day two. And the things that I would recommend bringing are like an aquarium co-op, like insulated bag, or just any bag that's insulated. So if you're buying fish early, you're going to carry them around all day. They're going to stay at the right temperatures. Bringing, my advice is bring some water and maybe a snack, because a lot of times you'll get there and you'll be like, the line to buy something to drink and some food is 45 minutes long, and when you got to the counter, you're like, it's $27 for a hot dog and a water. So, and those aren't controlled by Aquashella. A lot of times with those, you have to take contracts where it's like, you have to allow us to bring in these vendors for food and this and this and this to let the thing happen. So, because given a choice, they would much rather have cheaper food and everything for everybody. So yeah, those are the things I'd be planning for, really. What's the best way to transport or keep fish alive while traveling for a few days, like for Aquashella? My favorite way for a few days is a cooler, like a chest cooler that you'd put drinks in or something, with a valve. And if you can, on the inside of the valve, put a sponge filter, like a medium intake sponge. And so you can drain water without sucking a fish through. That's a plus. And then I drill a hole through the top of it, and I put an air line with a battery-powered air pump. And our battery-powered air pumps can be recharged and can be run off USB in your car. So you got lots of oxygen. Listen up, I do not put a sponge filter in there. Everyone makes the leap in logic. If you put the air stone in there, a sponge filter is even better. It's not, though, and here's why. Because you're driving around, you're going to make turns. You might have to slam on the brakes. That sponge filter becomes a wrecking ball in there, right? And it can actually just crush and kill fish. So you want a very light, normal air stone, keeping the water oxygenated. As far as waste goes, you're not going to feed them. You just want to bring some dechlorinator with you, and maybe at each hotel you stay at, you change 50% of the water by draining with that thing we made, replacing some new water in with some dechlorinator. And you can go a really long time that way. The good news is, if you're stopping at a hotel every night, you bring it in from the car, which you should bring it in from the car. Don't leave it in the car. It'll get too hot or too cold. Bring it in from the car. You can plug in your Aquarium Co-op battery-powered pump. It'll recharge to full, and so they're getting air 24 hours a day. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It makes it crazy easy, in my opinion. Now, if it's just like a day and a half, you could probably just have your fish bagged up when you leave and keep them insulated. You'll be fine as well. But you asked what the best was, and in my opinion, water changing with air every day is the best. And if you get really different fish, like maybe you bought some African cichlids, you bought some discus, and you bought some shrimp, I would use 3 different coolers, for instance. If salt doesn't work for goldfish swim bladder, what's the next step? Unfortunately, in my opinion, there aren't many steps. I think there's people offer 5 different solutions, and most times none of those solutions work. So when I have any fish that kind of gets bloated, goldfish included, I basically try to use some erythromycin so that it will hopefully kill the bacteria in their gut to loosen the gases that are building up in there. And I keep really clean water. And if they're still eating, I'll try to feed something that is highly digestible. Insides of peas, brine shrimp, that kind of stuff. And with lots of water changes and stuff like that, you're hoping for the best, and you'll get maybe half from the turnaround. In the other half that don't turn around from that, I watch people go through 5,000 different things and nothing fixes them. Could be organ failure, it could be all these things. And I'm not saying it'll never happen, right? There's always a 1 in a million miracle, but the odds from watching, if I have 10 customers have that problem every week at the retail store over years, pretty soon you're like, yes, 1 out of 422, they turned it around with this. Most people lose their fish, half of them, if they get the water clean and they're feeding the right things, they're doing all this stuff, they can get them to turn the corner back around. So that's the sadness. I'll be on the replay crew this time, but I had to drop in to say I just finished putting two 24-inch co-op lights on my 55, and I love them. The fish and plants look amazing, worth the money. Well, thank you, Jessica. I was talking with Dean about that because our biggest criticism, I would say, outside of price, we're like, lights cost money. I don't like spending money. But the biggest criticism is that the light is too yellow. But I just don't see that. And Dean doesn't see it either. I mean, I do see it sometimes if people have way too many tannins, it can accentuate that. But in general, these fish look like they're supposed to look like in the wild. And I think over the last, let's say, 10 years of LED lighting, we've gotten so accustomed to light that is hyper blue, that is not like it used to be when we had T8 bulbs and T5 bulbs. But there's a lot of people that have entered the hobby in the last 10 years that have never seen a tank that wasn't super blue. And that's not really how freshwater aquariums, in my opinion, should look. Now, it's all preference in lighting. And so that's why I don't fight it. It's like, hey, if you don't like the way our light looks, I get it. You know, you could run your house with very white light, like bright white, or you can run it as softer light. I like it as softer light. Maybe you like the blues and the bright light. You know, the lighting that you see like when you're in like a hospital and it's like really bright white, that's the same light you can make aquarium lights do. That's that 7,000 Kelvin spectrum. Whereas our lights at like the 4,500-ish range, they're going to be more like a soft white light. The soft white light is 2,900 or 2,700. So we're in between both of those because we don't want the super, super sterile blue look. We want the nature look. So, but yeah, if you buy it and you don't like it, return it. That's, you know, we'll give your money back. And a lot of people do like them, though, myself included. Dean, too. Dan says, I thought the light was really yellow, but I did a large water change and realized it was just the tannins. Yeah, it's, if you flash a light on, like, I'm trying to say how to accentuate this. So in a different example, if I have a light with a lot of red in it and I have red plants, the red plant will look more red. If my water is very tannin/yellow and I have some yellow hues in my light, it will look super yellow, right? So when you do that water change, you get the tannins out, all of a sudden it's not going to look nearly as yellow. But a lot of people have fairly yellow water, and I don't like running tannins in any of my tanks. Not tannins. Let me backtrack. Wood, because the tannins usually get out of control, and I don't like that look. Different looks for different people, and you could definitely point out the irony that, well, in nature, most of the water has lots of tannins. I get it. It's all preferences, and even I have them. Let's see here. Dan, did you buy that light? Do you want some more lights? If you email Zenzo or me or someone, we can get you some more lights. Let's see here. We've started like a program that's the Friends of Aquarium Co-op that we've been onboarding some influencers and people that help us at shows and stuff like that have just been truly helpful to us over the last 10 years. And we send them, you know, an email like once a month, like, hey, you want to select one of these products, you can have it. Sometimes a shirt. And usually we list shirts, hats, some of the new products and that kind of stuff, and different speakers we've had. You know, just try to keep them to say thanks for people that have helped us. So this question's come up a couple times, so I want to answer it. What's a better alternative? Would love to know. I have some ICX coming in the mail on the 24th. Would that fix swim bladder issue with the Epsom salts? Unlikely. If you were going to try a medication, I would try Maricin, because what can happen sometimes with a distended belly, right? Swim bladder issue type stuff. you can get bacteria. If they're constipated, the bacteria can start creating gases. And as they swell, it can push the swim bladder off to a side, and that can create more problems. That being said, that doesn't always work either. So I would say, I would say Icex probably isn't the answer. So I wouldn't do that. If I was going to try a med, it'd be Maricin. And maybe I would try Paracleanse, but usually that presents different symptoms. So I would try Paracleanse if I was going to try a med with that. Recommendations for a reliable large air pump for a 200-gallon pond. So it depends on how much air you want to do and everything. Me personally, if you want last forever and you can shield it from the elements, I would get a linear air piston pump. If you can't, I would probably buy like a Amazon special. Find something like a random Chinese company air pump that's rated for like a pond or hydroponics or something that's like $47 and just buy that. Because it's outside, you don't have to worry about how loud it is. Protect it from the elements the best you can. It'll last you 3.5 years or whatever it's going to be, and then you buy another one. Because it's hard to keep those pumps from overheating and that kind of stuff when you get the sun beating down on the enclosure they're in. But if you could like run it from your garage, get a linear air piston pump, that thing will run for the next 40 years with like no service, basically. They're super good, but they're like $200. So, pay a little bit now and have to redo it a few times, or pay a lot. But if you're renting or something like that, you might not even have that pond, in 5 years, in which case the $47 budget was perfect. Hey, Corey, the brine shrimp amount that you sell, more or less than an ounce of eggs. Well, the big container is more than an ounce for sure. The small one, let me look up how many grams it is. Let's see here. And then I'll do the conversion for you. Google will save us. 10 grams to ounces is 0.35 ounces. So our little container is 0.35 ounces, which is more than the other small containers, by the way. I won't name the brands, but we made sure to get you some more value. And the 100 grams would be like almost 4 ounces, I think, or 3.5. Yeah, 3.52 ounces. But a little bit of brine shrimp eggs can go a long, long way. Especially the people, if you only have like one tank, a little dab will do you. You don't need a whole big batch. Oh, my bad. Johnny, Dan's Fish, said, I'm not Dan, but I'll let Dan know. We could probably use a few at the warehouse. My bad. I focused on the Dan's Fish, even though I know you show up almost every week, Johnny. My apologies. I have plans to both feed the roots in the water column would using root tabs and fertilizer liquid you have be okay to do together. Yes, they are made to go together. Peanut butter and jelly, easy root tabs and easy green. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. If you're in the Facebook group, you've seen that graphic, and if not, I'm sure it'll spam you to death somewhere someday. Am I going to film some more in China? Yes. We have right now 2 different markets. We plan to see what the Hong Kong market is like, because I haven't been there in many years. And we want to see the Guangzhou market, again, been a few years. And we have a fish breeding facility that we want to visit as well. How good will they be? Don't know. We will see. Erie says, the Hydra lights are good and good value. Just don't let Corey hear us. No, I will not say that there are not other lights you couldn't buy. I will say, though, answer me this. How many of those lights are UL/ETL rated? And if they were to start a fire, would not void your insurance claim? How many of those make it easy with customer service or a warranty? How many of those have longer than a warranty of just the 30 days on Amazon? There's a lot of things that go in there. If you're purely going, what is the best light I can buy on a super budget? there's going to be a decent amount of lights on eBay and Amazon that could get you there. That being said, if I was really gonna, go toe to toe, I might go for a shop light from like Home Depot. Might do better because I feel like I could probably get some more water resistance out of a lot of those. But to each their own. I've built the light that I think is perfect for my needs. Your needs may be different. I like my lights to work for a very long time. I like them to be water resistant. I like them to not use a lot of energy. I like them to not run hot. I like them to have more than a 4-foot cord, looking at you, most major manufacturers. Yeah, all of those types of things. I took out all the annoyances I found and tried to make them better. With a bloated goldfish, is it better to fast them for 3 to 7 days than feed them with something highly digestible, or start feeding them peas right away? That's a hard question to answer, because if I'm wrong, I look like a dummy. In general, I would probably fast them for 2 or 3 days, and then I would offer them some highly digestible food, and I'd be trying things like a lot of fish things, not ecosystem things, but fish things. I would say 48 to 72 hours will tell you a lot. And so if you didn't see any change in 3 days, you probably don't see more change in 7 days. But that's assuming you're spending a lot of time really analyzing the fish and not just like, I looked and it looked the same. You got to like really go, what's the temperament? Is it swimming the same? Is it this? Is it acting any different? So I would end up trying both, basically. Is going to Colors Farm again still on my definite, maybe hopeful list? I'm trying to think of what Colors Farm was. Which farm that is. The one I'm trying to schedule right now is going back to Rand's farm that had the robots hanging from the ceiling feeding the tanks, because he has 10 farms in Israel. I only got to see one. Well, I got to see one in like a drive, like, check this out real cool. Too dark to film, gotta go. How much do I need to partnership with you guys? I feel like that was a thought in someone's head that didn't come out right. Partnerships in which way and how much of what? I work at a pet store, and the display tank doubles as a tank we sell discus from, but all the plants I put in die in a month. Everything is good, but I think it's the heat. Yeah, there's a lot of plants that don't tolerate that high level of heat. Also know that new plants you get are probably grown immersed, so they're going to die back before they come back. But yeah, I would try things like dwarf aquarium lily, some Vallisneria, microsword did well for us. Bacopa tends to do well for us in that high temp. But I don't know how high. If you're running 90, that's going to be rough. If you're running like 82, pretty easy. 85, pretty normal. Watched so many of your vids and previously live, but it's my first time catching you live. Well, welcome. Breakfast is life. Hopefully you are a biscuits and gravy connoisseur, much like myself. One of the problems I had with a few different LED lights was that after a while, a couple of them would warp. Yeah. We opened up a whole new mold for like $5,000 or $6,000. So we could increase the thickness of the aluminum diffuser, the aluminum housing on our light, because we saw some slight, like 1/32 of an inch bowing in our 4-foot model. So we beefed up all of them to, I think, twice the thickness to prevent that. Well, but to be fair, we will really only know that in like 5 to 10 years, right? Like it's a lot of these things where you're trying your best. Like, you know, if you make a brand new Toyota Camry tomorrow that's all new design, you can't really know how well is it going to do at 200,000 miles until you start getting some of them at 200,000 miles. Then you can take that feedback back and make the design better. And that's why, like with cars, you never really want to buy that first generation, which, you bought my first generation of Aquariumcoop light. And then each generation after that on the same model tends to get more reliable. Usually should. And that's what we're trying to do, is just, if we find something wrong with something, make it better. If we find there's a preference, make it better. You know, we're doing things to our heaters, we're doing things with our lights, and None of these are major changes, and the average person would have no idea we made a change. We are just optimizing the smallest pieces now. I have 2 of the 4-foot co-op lights on my 125, and the 2-foot overlap is my cat's favorite napping spot. It's probably like just that warmness, like top of the, well, I'm dating myself, but remember when we used to have big bulky TVs and the cats would like to lay on top of them because it'd be warm? Nowadays with the flat screens, you don't. So, can my lights do multicolors or just white? The way I would explain it is just white. We don't, we could have it in a blue moonlight mode, which not that many people use, some do. And then we have a normal viewing mode. We don't have, we don't let you like, I'm going to turn it red or green or blue, which we do blue, but we don't have lightning storm either. We don't have a lot of those things. It's just what you need for viewing an aquarium and growing plants. That's what it's designed to do. Can I do another 2 hours because Dan forgot about the live stream? The amount, I guarantee the amount of sweat won't allow. How's my back look? We're sweaty. Look at this. That's the amount of sweat when you sit in a 95-degree room on a leather chair. I'm just saying. I'm a sweaty dude at 2 hours. I might not make it through 4. What's my opinion on the Fiat LED T10s? I don't know that I've tried any of those lately, but a lot of those solutions, like I'm a hobbyist and I've been through a lot of the solutions. All lighting works. It comes down to longevity, price, and looks. And most of them tick only a few. Like our light doesn't tick the price thing. Like it's cheaper than the expensive lights, but it's not $27 for like a big light. But if I go buy a Home Depot light that's $27 and a million par, but is the wrong spectrum, that's a problem too. And it's not dimmable, and it's not this, and the cord's not as long, and it doesn't, there's light spill, and there's this, and there's that. So, yeah. But I would say, I really think what should have happened or should happen is way more investment from the industry into retrofitting old light fixtures with LED T10, T8 equivalents. Turn up the fireplace. That's right. Little secret. Fireplace is only for show. When it's cold, though, it does heat it. Are the aluminum frames extruded through a die? That I don't know off the top of my head. That's beyond my my level of knowing. We're not visiting that factory because they're moving the factory. So when it's done moving, hopefully I can make a video and show you guys stuff. Let's see here. Floodlights set up properly are amazing. Yeah, everything done properly is amazing. Like the right aquarium with the perfect sunlight exposure is amazing. The perfect aquarium with the right fiber optic setup is amazing. The perfect aquarium with the right ADA lights is amazing. The perfect aquarium with solar tubes is amazing. The perfect aquarium with the perfect, like you want to talk perfect lighting? Look at Rusty Wessel's fish house. He had a team design a house that when the aquariums were placed, all the windows in this building, as the sun moves across the sky, it lights a different aquarium in the space. Everything done properly is amazing. And then there's like that real world where it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to hire a team like that. I'm going to buy a light that gets me pretty good results. So, yeah. A GoFundMe to get some AC in this room. On Saturday, in theory, they're putting a vent in here that should be piping in some AC. If we can get this thing down from 80 or 95 to like even 80, I'd be happy. But I'm hoping it'll be more like, ooh, look at that. It's keeping temp like if the rest of the house is 75, if it's 5 degrees more up here, that's a huge win. Because right now, if the house is 75, it's like 95 or 100 in here. It's brutal. It's just all training for like Peru and China. China, a lot of times, real hot when I'm there. Could you make your heaters have a green display instead of the red? it would hide so much better. We aren't doing green, but we are working on smoking the plastic more, so giving it to be less see-through, and reducing the intensity of the light of the LEDs. So we're attacking it from two sides to hopefully not be so bright in people's aquariums. So trying to address your problem, but in a different way. Let's see. Reason I asked because I have all the old hoods with the T10s, and I've been trying the Fiat 10 LEDs, which are 5,000 Kelvin. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a worthwhile test, and but no, I haven't done the testing on it. So play with them and see what you like. My tank, which is about 6 months old, had a random ammonia spike. My tank is a little overstocked, but it would have been fine forever. Oh, but it has been fine forever. Any ideas what I could do to fix it? The idea you won't like. Liquidate some fish. You know, if you know you're overstocked, in my opinion, remove some of the fish you like the least. Take them back to the pet store. And it's common, it's common to be like, I kept buying more because I kept getting bored of these ones. Maybe you take those ones back. Maybe they're breeding, something like that. But that's the real solution. Yes, could you use chemicals? Yes, could you use more filtration? Could you do more water changes? You could do all those things. If you decide like, nope, I'm in love with every one of these. You could also get a bigger aquarium. But most times I find, yeah, maybe I thought these were going to be awesome. And maybe I didn't need 6 of these. I really just needed 1. Put in a portable AC unit. I have one sitting right there, but when I turn it on, you can hear it in the live stream. And so also know that it takes a lot of power to cool this thing down. So like I'd have to start it yesterday, start cooling for today. So I'm trying to be more efficient and really it's almost worse when downstairs like a nice cool 75 and you just climb the stairs into the inferno. Okie dokie. How long would you wait to move Cory fry into main tanks? Salt and pepper Corys are 23 days old. I would wait till the fish are 1 inch. And by that I mean they're at least 1 inch, so they're not going to fit in anybody's mouths. Can Scarlet Temple be kept healthy without CO2 in a low-tech tank? Yes, with highlight. What is the best beneficial bacteria recommend? The best, in my opinion, is Turbo Start that we don't sell. We sell one step down, which is Fritzzyme 7. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. So if you have a local store selling Turbo Start, buy that. Otherwise, I like Fritzzyme 7. There are some people that are shipping it online. My personal stance, until I know more and do my own tests, but I worry about when it's hot, will it stay cool enough to get from here to Texas or here to New York? And in the winter, I think it's easier to keep it from freezing. But in the summer, I'm worried, especially when people are counting on it. So that's why we haven't taken that jump. I want to because I love Turbo Start, but I know the amount that I need to write into like the algorithm and the testing. I just haven't taken on that project yet because it's a lot. You need to do a lot of testing during cold months and a lot of testing during warm months and set up a different algorithm. And then it gets a degree harder where you don't want things to get too cold, you don't want things to get too hot, and you're doing live plants, and you're doing something that needs to be refrigerated, and you're doing frozen brine shrimp eggs, and you start getting into too many layers that you can't have good outcomes. And so sometimes you just have to go, this product is great, but it's not great for us to be selling. And so I think Fritzzyme 7 is that way. I think Fluval 407 or the 07 series and 08 series of canisters are that way. They're great in my opinion, but it doesn't make sense for us to sell them. Does Turbo Start work with 5.5 pH? I don't know off the top of my head, but my first thing would be most bacteria doesn't even thrive in 5.5 pH. You're getting real low there. So I'm not sure what your use case is. What do you think is the best to feed guppies to enhance breeding? In my opinion, the best thing I've ever used would be Repashy Foods, with like freeze dried and frozen foods being a second to that. I'm lazy sometimes and don't want to make Repashy, but Repashy lets you feed them so much that you can really get a lot of production out of them. Let's see here. 6 o'clock, so 9 p.m. for East Coasters. So I'm wrapping it up. Wrapping it up. Will eucalyptus root lower my pH? And is it a good idea to add to my tank? I don't know if it rots or like how water stable it is, but all wood is rotting in your aquarium, so all of them technically affect pH. All right. Dan's fish room is live now. Well, that's a good enough. Go see Dan's fish room. He can carry on the conversation, so I can go wring out my sweaty shirt. Alrighty. When I do water changes, I add tetrachlorinator and Chem Pristine. Is it a good mix? So the dechlorinator is fine. The Chem Pristine, let me make sure it's the right product. Because I believe if you go, yeah, okay, this is that product. If you go way back, like 3-4 years ago, in some of the daily fish room vids, we did a pretty extensive fish room test where I added to a bunch of aquariums and I blogged about it every week. And I and nobody else could see any difference in what the Pristine was supposed to be doing. I had tanks that had heavy organics. I had tanks that had light organics. I had some that had lots of algae. I had some that non-algae. And we couldn't see a visible difference after a month. I'm not saying it could never work for anybody, but they were definitely really wanting me to highlight on the channel. I go, I'll give it a try, but I'm going to be honest with what happens. And yeah, the honesty was I couldn't notice any difference. And in my opinion, when I see no difference, I'm not inclined to keep putting that chemical in my tank. So take that for what you will. The chlorinator, yes. Pristine, maybe. All right. It's hot, and you guys have got stuff to do. You can go watch other live streamers. And I eventually got to eat some dinner and get caught up on some work because I go to China next week to film you guys videos. So thanks for supporting us. Thanks for people that bought memberships. Thanks to those that gifted it. Thanks that showed up. Try to compliment somebody. Maybe you'll be my neighbor complimenting my yard and I'll feel good. If not, you'll make somebody else feel good. And we'll see you probably 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know how it exactly, it might be only 2, but it might be 3. It depends on how I feel. If I don't feel great after getting off the plane because I'm on Chinese time, then I might be asleep. Who knows? We'll see ya. Bye-bye.